This is BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store. Simulcast on BYU TV and BYU Radio. Now live from Studio B, here's Jarom Jordan. And from Las Vegas, Spencer Linton.
BYU Sports Nation is live, your day-to-day play-by-play in Studio B, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Tuesday, March 8th, the year of our Lord, 2022. Thanks for being here. I'm Jarom Jordan, teamed up with the guy who, without any play-by-play to do, is angling to be tonight's clock operator, Spencer Linton.
Jarom, I got to stay busy somehow, and you may have noticed that there were a few little problematic things that took place yesterday.
Again?
I am offering my services to make sure that does not happen again. I'm going to go in, I'm going to talk to the electricians in the arena. We're going to get everything sorted out. There will be no issues today, my friend. So there you have it.
Yeah, I almost wonder if last year in the title game it was like, hey, we said Gonzaga men, not women. Come on. Yeah, no, all good, whatever. Both won, and, BYU advanced in the NCAA tournament last year. All good. But we've got that matchup. BYU and Gonzaga women today, which is going to be freaking awesome, coming up on BYU Radio, ESPNU, 4 Eastern time. So here's the show lineup. It's a Title Tuesday, baby. Will a win help the women's basketball team climb to a 4 seed or no? We'll discuss. Spencer goes one-on-one with Maria Albiero and Tegan Graham. And Jerry Palm joins the program. He explains why he still has BYU in his bracket. We're hoping Jerry's right. We've been kind of leaning on Joe Lenardi quite a bit. If Jerry's right, we're gonna send him a gift basket of just Cougar swag, blue goggles, all the stuff. We hope that happens. But first, let's serve up some headlines.
All right, Jarom, let's go ahead and start with BYU women's basketball, who settled their score with Portland in a way, avenging one of the Cougars' only 2 losses this season with the win against the Pilots head-to-head in the West Coast Conference semifinals, 59-52.
15 seconds on the shot clock for Gonzalez. She whips it to Graham. Albiero, wide open 3. Got it! Maria Albiero!
Oh, chills in that moment. How big was Maria Albiero? As mentioned, we will talk with her one-on-one in just a little bit. Shaylee Gonzalez did her thing, 20.6 rebounds for the back-to-back West Coast Conference Player of the Year. Tegan Graham was everywhere. She had a big shot late as well. 11 rebounds to go along with her 11 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Tegan was awesome as well. Much more on women's basketball coming up.
Yeah, it was a fantastic performance. Men's hoops remains second out in Joe Lenardi's bracket, and in Jerry Palm's bracket, he still has the Cougars as the 4th team in, and in the first 4. We'll talk to Jerry later in the program.
Kalani Sitake has been named to the top 25 rankings of all college football head coaches. This according to Bruce Feldman, right at number 25. So congratulations. Spring football continues today for the 25th ranked head coach and his BYU Cougars.
The New England Patriots released Kyle Van Noy. He is now a free agent. We are interested to see where Kyle lands.
Certainly. Maybe it's here in Las Vegas. Due to probable snow this weekend, baseball's triple header against Oklahoma State has been moved to Arlington, Texas, and the new home of the Texas Rangers. How about that? That's an upgrade. The Cowboys, who BYU will face, are coming off being swept by Gonzaga, while the Cougars ended with a 2-1 series win against Milwaukee. The Batcats 7-3 overall.
I saw a concert, Weezer, Fall Out Boy, and Green Day last July at Globe Life. It's legit, dude. That's awesome for them. Obviously, hosting Oklahoma State here would have been amazing, but bad weather. So, spring training ain't happening. No Major League games are happening yet. Hey, nothing's going on there. It's just empty. Let's go. Violet Zavodnik is the WCC Player of the Week after 7 hits, batted .500, 4 runs, 5 RBIs. In 4 Cougar wins last year.
She's had like a month-long manifestation of the BYU Sports Nation karma, and it's fantastic. It's because she tweeted about it. Moving on to BYU men's golf, currently in a tie for 7th place at the Lambkin Invitational. Women's golf at 6th place in the Julie Inkster Meadow Club Collegiate. Good luck to both BYU men's and women's golf.
And for the first time since '91, the men's volleyball team's not in the top 15 in the ACA Coaches Poll. They're the first team out, by the way. BYU hosts Concordia Irvine this weekend on BYU TV. Let's hope they snap the streak. It's not a 9-match losing streak, which they keep putting out that it's since 90. It's 91. But anyway, facts, whatever. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
You're talking about it, and so are we. It's What's Trending on BYU Sports Nation.
What's Trending is presented by Bodyguards, protection for a life worth living. Learn more at bodyguards.com. BYU and Gonzaga in the women's hoops WCC title game this afternoon, ESPNU and BYU Radio at 4 Eastern time. So, Spence, will the outcome of today's game affect BYU's seeding in the NCAA tournament?
I wish I had a definitive answer for this. I am hoping that it solidifies BYU as a top 4 seed. Again, it's not about BYU hosting. We've already gone through all of the complications that go into that. BYU's not going to be able to do it for a number of reasons. They can't give up their venue for a week. They can't surrender that to the NCAA. Also, they can't hold practices on Sunday. So whatever, BYU's not going to be able to host. That stinks, but at least give them the seed they deserve, which right now, even before the Gonzaga game today, should be a 4 seed. It's not going to climb higher than that. However, if BYU loses today, then I can see the Cougars certainly as a number 5 seed and Gulp maybe falling to a 6 seed, but I feel bad for the team that BYU would face in the second round, that 3 seed that draws the Cougars, and are like, we're the 3 seed. How did we get BYU, who's ranked number 15 right now, in the second round? But let's start with what's in front of BYU, what they can control, Jarom, and that is beating Gonzaga for a 3rd time this season. It would give them a quote-unquote quadrant 1 victory to add to their already impressive resume. 3 wins against another tournament team, because Gonzaga's pacing to be an 11 seed right now. That's worth something. So I think that BYU, at best, with a win today, they punctuate why they deserve a 4 seed. But if they lose, yeah, no shot. They're going to fall to a 5 or a 6. I wish they could climb some more. And I wish that the hosting thing weren't a situation and that BYU could have home court advantage. It's not going to be that way. The ladies just deserve and have earned at least a top 4 seed. And the AP voters have said as much. They got BYU at number 15, highest ranking in program history. So why would BYU not be worthy of remaining in the top 15, according to most of the media, if they beat Gonzaga today? There are not enough teams behind BYU that have enough left on the schedule to jump BYU so much that they would fall out of like a top 17 or 18 scenario. So yeah, I wish they could do more with the win, but they certainly can state their case that they need to stay where they are with the win over Gonzaga.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think BYU goes any higher than 4. I don't think BYU drops any lower than 6, although 6 would be just stupid. If BYU is 26-3 with a loss, 27-2 with a win, why isn't that team a 5? Why isn't that team a 4? Also, why can't BYU give up the Marriott Center for a week? And also, why do we care if other teams are using it on Sunday? I don't understand why this is an issue. I don't understand why the university can't make that available. The issue isn't other teams. The issue is BYU's not going to use it on Sunday. So is there a Devo that was scheduled or something? Like, can we move stuff around? Isn't this the NCAA tournament? Isn't this an opportunity to help this team get to the Sweet 16? I don't understand why perhaps BYU wasn't ready for this, maybe a little more, knowing this team could have done this. I know there are policies in place. I don't have to agree with all of them, but it's disappointing. And why couldn't it have been neutral site nearby? Did we just realize this late? Like, what? I'm a little frustrated that BYU can't host if they're in that position. And then hopefully BYU can be a 4, even if they're not hosting, because then you would play a 13, right, in the first round. And then in the second round, you would play probably a 5 who beats a 12 on their home court. But, now you're at least the higher seed and perhaps a better team, right? So BYU's got to make the Sweet 16. The easiest way to do that is to host at home. Unfortunately, that isn't going to happen should BYU be a top 4 seed.
Yeah, and certainly, how do you reward a 5? Like, which 5 seed do you reward with the home court advantage by putting BYU in that bracket?
Depends which 4 BYU is, right? Like, if BYU's the 4th 4, perhaps the first 5 is the one that gets it. Yeah, I would think it's something like that.
Sure, that would make sense. But and does the committee like say, well, let's just keep it so we don't have to explain the seedings and BYU is not hosting, so let's just make that first 5 seed a 4 seed and we'll drop BYU to the 5 seed line and there are no explanations necessary. The semantics here are really crazy. And you did bring up an apt point. I mean, the devotional thing, if BYU had to surrender the building from Tuesday to Tuesday, now we're talking about pushing away 2 scheduled devotionals on top of the Sunday situation.
But in the who cares? Sorry, this is the women's basketball NCAA tournament. Like, isn't this a thing we're hoping and trying to give the team? Perhaps the speaker, I don't know who it is, was under contract for the Marriott Center only. I don't know. It just feels silly that we can't hook this team up.
I wish they could have the home court advantage in the worst way because they have earned it. It's not like, oh, give them what they deserve. No, they've earned it. They've earned the right to be in those top 4. They've earned the right to be at home. It's not going to be the case. I hope that they, again, punctuate that scenario that, hey, we are a top 15 team today. We just beat Gonzaga for a 3rd time, won the conference postseason tournament and the regular season championship, avenged the loss to Portland. Like, they've done everything they could possibly do. All right, Jarom, on to topic 2. BYU men's basketball, meanwhile, well, their situation, as we have discussed ad nauseum, is very bubbly. Yes, dare I say bubblicious. And because we've been doing it every day, we need to get to our BYU men's basketball resume update as they approach a very interesting weekend. The net ranking stays the same at number 55. In the Ken Palm ratings, BYU maintaining their position at number 50. Jerry Palm, CBS lead bracketologist. We're all Jerry brackets guys today. Still has BYU in as a 12 seed, one of the first 4 in, playing in Dayton. We're going to ask him why he believes the resume is worth that in just a few minutes. Lenardi still has BYU as the 2nd team out in ESPN side of things. Team rankings has been bumped up to a huge 0.9% chance of giving BYU a chance to make the tournament. Bracket matrix, an 11.69 average seed, but only in 13 of the 129 brackets, including Jerry Palm of CBS Sports. Jerry, we love you. Please help all of the other people on the committee understand why you feel so strongly that BYU has done enough to still be in. Jarom, what do you think of all of this as we approach a ton of scoreboard watching for the remainder of the week?
I think it stinks. I don't like it. Okay, let's talk about the 13 teams in bracket matrix that have BYU in. Okay, it's CBS Sports, reputable. SportsSentiment.com, bracketodds.com, Cheese Predictions, what? Copatology, CrashingTheDance.com, EvanMaya.com, who? Keith's Sports, Oak Creeks, Premdog, at Impulsivity. These are, just random people on Twitter. KirbyCBB.com. Like, who are these people? You and I should be putting out a bracket, so it's 14. The BYU Sports Nation bracket.
Yes.
And BYU's a 1 seed in the NIT.
At Impulsivity is my absolute favorite in that whole list. It reminds me of X-Wing at Aliciousness.
At Aliciousness, yes. Yes.
Oh, so fantastic.
Dan Smith at BYU should be putting out a bracket. At Bracketures. What are these? I don't... It doth stinketh to me. Okay, this doth.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, well, let me give you a few teams to root against this week, Jarom, and we'll discuss this again tomorrow. Root against SMU, root against Indiana, and root against Wyoming. Start with those 3.
Yes, the teams around BYU, of course. Yes. Our question of the day: who or what will be the Y factor in today's West Coast Conference Women's Championship game? Let's hear from you and the voice of the nation.
This is the voice of the nation on BYU Sports Nation.
Ben Peterson on Twitter. Bench production. We know what you are going to get from the starting 5. They are consistently good. In the 2 losses, they had limited bench help. You need quality minutes when starters are resting. Okay, bench production. So Sarah Hampson and Kaylee Smiley. That's who.
Kaylee Smiley was big yesterday. She hit a huge 3, and Sarah did her thing too. All right, coming up, Jarom. Is Kalani Sitake ranked too low in Bruce Feldman's top 25 head coaches of college football? Does he deserve more respect?
What do we think in our biased opinion? And why does Jerry pumped up BYU in his bracket? He'll tell us after the break. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Bodyguards. Protection for a life worth living.
Trio Orem Senior Living believes in empowering seniors to live life to the fullest. We help eliminate stress out of daily life when you live at Trio. Less time focusing on housework means you can socialize at one of our many events, with safety in mind, of course. And did we mention our spacious apartments with modern amenities? Learn more about setting up a private tour at trioorem.com.
Hi, Spencer Linton here, letting you know when your company joins the BYU team as a corporate partner, your brand can be featured in sports programming on BYU TV and BYU Radio. In addition to all of the great games, you can be part of the BYU coaches shows, place your message in Countdown to Kickoff, basketball pre- and post-game shows, and each weekday on BYU Sports Nation. We invite your team to join ours and become a corporate sponsor of BYU Athletics. For details, email sponsorship@byu.edu today.
Uh-oh. Do you not know the groom's name?
I missed it on our first date, and it's way too late to ask.
Whenever you experience something funny, the first thing you want to do is share it with your loved ones. Seeing that comedy helped us through things, we want to use that to help other people in a way.
We had one kid whose make-a-wish was to come to Studio C. It made me be these goofy sketches mean a lot to people.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Number 15, BYU Women's Hoops plays Gonzaga for the West Coast Conference Championship today. You can listen to it on BYU Radio starting at 4 Eastern Time. Spencer Linton is in Las Vegas. He will join us in a couple of moments. I am in Provo. Now joining us is the one credible bracketologist who still has BYU in the bracket. His name is Jerry Palm of CBS Sports. Jerry, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right, but you might want to check with me on Sunday.
Yes, we will. Absolutely. Okay, so for the past, months, we've been reporting on bracketology, and, for the past couple weeks, been all right, BYU's out. They got to climb back in. They need a San Francisco game to have a chance. Got it. Didn't get in. Poof. Chance is gone. Or are we wrong? You still have BYU in the bracket as a 12 seed. What's your case for the Cougars to stay in as of now?
Well, they've done reasonably well against the better team that they've played. It's not great. I mean, they're 7-9 against quad 1 and 2, so that's below 500, but it's not terrible. And certainly there are teams competing for spots in the tournament that are significantly worse than that. The problem is the losses, the Vanderbilt, the Utah Valley, Pacific. I mean, that can't happen. You get a quad 4 loss in a league like this, even a good year for the West Coast Conference. And it's been terrific. And really, that's helping BYU right now because, there's 4 teams in this league that are at least possible NCAA tournament quality, plus Santa Clara is not that bad either. So the league being as good as it's been, as deep as it is this year, unusually so, is boosting up both San Francisco and BYU and giving them a chance. But, the problem is 1 and 2 against San Francisco. You got a home and home split with St. Mary's. And St. Mary's, that's a good win. But, it's just right now it's really close. And the fact that you're no longer playing, while all of these other major conference teams who are around you on the bubble are still have a chance to play, really puts BYU in a vulnerable position. I like him at the moment. But like I said, check back with me on Sunday.
Yeah, you've got BYU 4 in right now. Give us a sense historically on the bubble in this situation. Okay, if you're barely in, what the chances are of you being able to stay in depending on what happens around you and bid stealers, but also teams that were on the bubble that that lose and maybe fall off.
Yeah, unfortunately, there aren't a lot of bid stealer opportunities out there, so that's good. Murray State would have been one, but they won their league. Loyola won their league, but I don't think that was going to be – I think that was going to be a one-bid league anyway. So really the only one left potentially is the Atlantic 10, where Davidson is the conference champion. And if Davidson, it doesn't take a stupid loss here on their way through the conference tournament, but loses to, say, a VCU or a St. Bonaventure, then the A10 would be a two-bid league, and they might not be otherwise if Davidson wins the conference tournament. So that's somewhere where you want to keep an eye out on something like that happening. But then really the competition is at the other bubble team. So historically, it's a mixed bag. Some years are just better than others when it comes to how the bubble teams perform in their conference tournaments. You get Michigan, Indiana in an 8-9 game in the Big Ten tournament. So you're probably rooting for Indiana because they're the weaker team in terms of their resume. They might actually have to win, not just Michigan, but Illinois to get in, whereas Michigan might be able to get in just by beating Indiana. Rutgers is part of that mix as well. Rutgers is the 4 seed. So they're not actually, they got a double bye. Their most likely opponent is 5 seed Iowa. You would definitely be rooting for Iowa in that game because if Rutgers loses that first game, their chances are less of getting in. So, these teams at the bottom of the bracket, the American Conference teams, SMU in particular, but also Memphis, those teams that you're competing with are the teams that you want to keep an eye on.
We're talking to Jerry Palm of CBS Sports, bracketologist, who has the Cougars in, baby. We're all in on this. Let's go. Hopefully Sunday BYU is still in. It's a lonely island right now. It absolutely is. Okay, if BYU doesn't get in on Sunday, what costs the Cougars in the end?
Pacific. No question. They're in if they beat Pacific. It's just hard to play a quad 4 loss off your schedule. And Pacific is ranked almost 300 in the net. So that's not just quad 4. That's pretty far down the list. It's really hard to play that one off the schedule. I mean, Vanderbilt's a good team. They're just in the SEC, so they're not good compared to the SEC, but they're not terrible either. Utah Valley, I mean, that's an in-state game. Stuff happens, but Pacific can't happen. That's the one. If BYU isn't in the bracket on Sunday, Pacific is the reason why.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's not like, BYU's getting blown out in those. Creighton was one, Gonzaga was one. San Francisco at home was another, of course. But it's like, just right there. Obviously, injuries early in the season affected BYU. We felt like the Cougars were overachieving at one point. Then they're almost in the top 25 poll. Then they go to Santa Clara and lose, who probably would have been a tourney team if Vrenkich was healthy all year. Who knows? Could have been crazy.
Yeah, and they're not a bad team anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, Santa Clara is an NIT level team, which is part of, the depth of this league being improved this year is that you're 5 deep in teams that are, quality teams that you can still resume build with.
Yes, this is the best it's ever been in the West Coast Conference. Every year they say it's good. Hey, this year was actually good, right? A 3-bid league for sure here. Okay, if BYU actually gets in, and it'll be barely if they get in, why did BYU get in your opinion?
Because of the wins over San Francisco and St. Mary's. And San Diego State. I mean, that's, San Diego State's a nice non-conference win, and that's a team that's also, near the bottom of the bracket. So it'll be the good wins, and the fact that they had a good record compared to some of these other teams against teams in the top 2 quadrants and the top 3 quadrants, and that's really what's going to be what pushes them into the bracket, because they're going to be competing with teams that don't have 2 wins over teams in the tournament. And, BYU's got 3. So we'll see how it goes, but it's those are the positives for BYU.
Yeah, looking at quad 1, it's wild. 4-6 for BYU, and 8 of the 10 games are conference games. BYU only had 2 non-con that ended up being quad 1. You mentioned San Diego State. That was at home. San Diego State barely in quad 1 at 29 right now. And then at Missouri State is kind of a sneaky game. So was BYU's non-conference tough enough, or did it need to be a little tougher? Because I'm seeing some quad 2s, and then there are a couple losses there that perhaps are costing the Cougars.
Well, their non-conference strength of schedule is around 100, so that's not bad. They're competing with, for example, Wake Forest, who's in the 300s. Indiana's in the 300s. No, those are teams that hurt themselves by playing poor non-conference schedules, and we see teams get left out almost every year, primarily because of that are near the bottom of the bracket. I don't think that's BYU's problem. Could it have been better? Yeah, maybe. But, I think if your strength of schedule in the non-conference is around 100, that's not terrible. By the way, Missouri State finished second in the Missouri Valley, part of a three-way tie with Loyola as part of that tie as well. And Missouri State was actually the 2 seed.
Pretty good team. So that ended up being a pretty good win. We're talking to Jerry Palm of CBS Sports. When it comes to BYU in the future in the Big 12, we've been looking at that situation with great interest and realizing, oh my gosh, just hover near 500, play a good non-con, and you got a good shot to get in. That league is just ridiculously tough. What does it look like in the future, in your opinion, for BYU in the Big 12 as it pertains to March Madness?
Going to have to get better. You're going to have to get better players to compete in that league. That entire league, the last time I looked, which was probably yesterday, the entire league was in the top 80 of the net. Now, that's unusual. I mean, that nobody is having a bad year. It's all relative. They may only put 6 teams in the field, but there are no easy games in that league this year. So, and then you're going to add, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, this is a league that's going to add quality, but those teams are going to all have to step it up a notch to compete in the Big 12 playing in places like Kansas and Baylor, Texas Tech, Texas. There's a lot of good basketball programs in that conference, and the competition is going to be significantly more difficult than what all of those teams are used to seeing. And the recruiting, you're just going to have to get better players if you're going to compete in this league.
100%. We look forward to it. One more year in the WCC. What are you watching the rest of the week as we approach Selection Sunday that has the most of your interest?
Well, it's the teams at the bottom of the bracket, because for me, I consider, as part of what I'm doing, the biggest priority is to try to get the teams right, and which I have a pretty good track record of doing. But so I focus a lot on the bottom of the bracket. But then the number 1 seeds, there are 6 teams, maybe 7 in play for number 1 seeds. Gonzaga will be one of them, win or lose tonight. It's really more a matter of whether they're the overall number 1. But Auburn, Kentucky, Arizona, Kansas, Baylor all have reasonable scenarios that put them on the top line of the bracket. And so there'll be a lot of attention paid to that as well.
St. Mary's has a 5 seed I'm seeing, and then San Francisco has an 11. So 3 WCC teams in, and you feel good about those seeds right now for, I guess, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and San Francisco. We'll be watching that as well.
Yeah, it's teams. Well, that league will be done playing after tonight, and teams can still move around as other teams are playing. But you got to keep in mind that all but the conference champions are going to lose a game between now and Sunday.
Absolutely. Jerry, we appreciate the time. Hopefully BYU's in the bracket on Sunday, but like you said, we'll check with you again Sunday possibly.
All right, well, good luck.
Thank you. We're going to need it. Jerry Palm of CBS Sports joining us here on BYU Sports Nation. Whew. Hopefully he's right, man. But, yeah, the Pacific loss. Ugh, almost tough. Santa Clara is good. Santa Clara was underrated, by the way. That's quad 1 that BYU could have added, but did not. Coming up, Spencer's one-on-one with Maria Albiero and Tegan Graham from Las Vegas after the win yesterday. Plus, where do we want Kyle Van Noy to end up? And why is it my Seahawks? This is BYU Sports Nation.
Dexter & Dexter is a full-service law firm offering a wide range of legal services. Since 1995, we have helped more than 20,000 Utahns both to navigate life's challenges and to make the most of life's opportunities. From accidents to wills, from bankruptcy to business law, we are passionate about shouldering your burdens. To learn more about scheduling a no-obligation consultation, visit dexterlaw.com.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
Welcome to a partnership where customer experience comes first. It's our focus. It's your expectation. We provide support to those that go the extra mile for all of us. supplying products, training, and service for generations. Learn more at bradyindustries.com.
Familiar with the BYU TV app? Yes.
I beg your pardon?
Sure, it's got great original TV shows. But it also gives you access to family films for free.
Wow, awesome!
So gather around, grab some popcorn, and let us do the rest.
It'll be fun.
Watch some of your favorite films anytime, anywhere. With the free BYU TV app.
I like it.
BYU Sports Nation is brought to you by Maersk, enabling global trade for a growing world.
Now BYU women's basketball headed back to the championship game on a Title Tuesday. But they're not the only women dominating for the Cougs. Check it out on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
It's International Women's Day. Shout out to the amazing women of BYU Athletics. They do such an amazing job. We get to cover them. They're fantastic. Is that a W for women? Nice. He is Spencer. I am Jarom. This is BYU Sports Nation from Vegas and Provo to interact with the show and get what we think is at least marginally decent content throughout the day. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. But first, before the whip, let's announce the winners of the basketball prize packs. Some autographed basketballs and some socks and some all kinds of stuff. Here they are. At JT Lamro 7, at Tasha Lynn 19. I know she's a huge BYU basketball fan. At Jamie Fryer. At Angela Saunders, at Brian Hawk 5. Those are the 5 winners. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
BYU TV Sports will reach out and hook you up. Thanks to everyone for entering. But alas, these are the 5 winners. All right, now we can whip it. The Cougar Whip Round is presented by Maersk, your integrated container logistics company enabling global trade for a growing world.
Kalani Sitake in at number 25 on Bruce Feldman's top 25 college football head coaches list. Stuart Mandel just released his list, Jarom, and has Kalani at number 21. So who's more correct? Is it Feldman or Mandel?
Yes. I think Kalani's the top 25 coach. Yeah. You don't go B2, B10 plus and finish in the top 25 and not be one of the best in the country. So yeah, I do have a mild issue with Bill Clark and Mandel's being 19 of UAB. Too soon from the bullpen, but Bill Clark's a good coach. I just don't think he's top 25.
For the mere fact that 21 is one of my favorite numbers, I'm going to go with our guy, Stuart Mandel. Also, he's been on the show a bunch. He's one of our guys. Stu, much love, my brother.
Bruce Feldman's been on the program as well. Not as much, but yes. Where would you like to see Kyle Van Noy sign?
It's always the Bengals, Jarom. It's always the Cincinnati Bengals. That's probably not going to happen because the Bengals don't have a huge need for a linebacker like Kyle Van Noy, but maybe it's here in Las Vegas. It'd be fun to have Kyle in the silver and black, relatively close to Utah again. I'm sure his family would like that, make it more easy to come and watch him play. But yeah, maybe it's the silver and black of Las Vegas with that veteran leadership that he would bring.
He is from Nevada, although Reno. Perhaps the Rams. If they don't sign Von Miller, they could use another veteran that's getting cheaper in Kyle Van Noy. Perhaps the Rams, although I don't want to see the Super Bowl champs in the same division as the Seahawks. Get a guy like Kyle Van Noy. I already have to root for Fred Warner, but against the Niners. I don't want to root for Kyle Van Noy and against the Rams, too. Yeah. Come on.
On to women's basketball, Jarom. Paisley Harding and Maria Albiero set a program record with their 144th games as BYU Cougars yesterday. Today marks, obviously, number 145. So over under 147 and a half games played total for Maria and Paisley when all is said and done this season.
Are they going to the Sweet 16? Yeah. Yes, it's going to be over. It's going to be 148. They're getting to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, when they get to the Sweet 16, 148, why stop there, my friend? Why stop there?
And I'm with you.
I think it's going to be over.
That maybe this won't ever be broken. I said it won't ever be broken. Shaylee Gonzalez might actually break it because she's going to play 5 years here. So, yeah, Shaylee will probably break it. Is it an upgrade for BYU baseball to play Oklahoma State at Globe Life Field, home of the Texas Rangers?
Well, it's not one of the top 15 most beautiful sports venues in the entire world that we discussed yesterday, according to Joe Pompliano. But weather conditions-wise, it certainly is an upgrade. Yeah, the backdrop, not as impressive. Everything else, we'll call it an upgrade.
They can close the roof, so it doesn't matter what it's outside like in Arlington on that particular day. But no, it's legit. It's, what, 2 years old? I mean, this is its third year, I think. It's really impressive. I didn't see a baseball game there. Like I said, I saw a concert, but it's freaking awesome. So, yeah, bummer not to host Oklahoma State. Kind of, hey, Big 12 homies, what's up? Not have that series, but we'll have a bunch of those soon enough. All good.
Jarom, after the nets are cut down on the women's basketball side here in Las Vegas, I know you are all in on Gonzaga and St. Mary's for the men's title.
I'm not even watching it. I'm going to a movie tonight.
Well, then you've answered my question. Do you even care who wins that game?
No, I don't care. I'm going to the Batman tonight. Let's go. Let's go. Yes. I don't even care about St. Mary's and Gonzaga. Fun fact, 2 years ago, 2020? Yeah, it's been a decade since 2020. That's the first time I didn't actually watch the title game because we had been down at that tourney every year since 2010. I drove home, and then St. Mary's actually beat Gonzaga for the shift. So I was like, should I have stayed and watched that? And the answer is no. It doesn't matter. Who do you want to win?
I mean, just for the sheer logistics of it all, St. Mary's beating Gonzaga again would be pretty wild, like 2 times in a row. And how much would that push the Gales up in the seeding line? Like the St. Mary's are in like a 4 or 5 seed. They beat Gonzaga again.
Listen.
And does that somehow help?
Yes.
Does it somehow help BYU because BYU has beaten St. Mary's head to head?
We figured it out. This is how BYU gets in. St. Mary's beats Gonzaga. And then the net is like 12, and it's like, BYU's got a great win over St. Mary's. This is how it happened. We figured it out.
Yes,
we need the Gales to win tonight. Everyone, start fasting. That same man.
Get the deli
God
gnome.
Doesn't care.
Get the deli gnome. Put him up on the desk in my spot, Jarom.
I got it. Hold on. Hold on.
Jarom's getting the deli gnome.
Damn.
Get the deli gnome. Put it on the desk.
Gale. Let's go, Gale. Let's go. Yes.
It's all about the Gales tonight. Improve that net for BYU,
I feel dirty
baby.
doing this, but it's all good. We figured it out.
Oh, good stuff.
I wish you just sat here
coming
the rest
up.
of the show.
Hard to top what just happened, that's for sure. We're going to try, though, with the top 5 tournament championships in BYU basketball history.
Plus, should I throw this off the building? And Maria Albiero and Tegan Graham weigh in after yesterday's semifinal win. Let's go, Gales. This is BYU Sports Nation. This is Gale Sports Nation now.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork offers a large inventory of Ford vehicles, including a selection of cars and trucks, providing a range of transportation choices. From the Ford Fusion sedan and the Edge crossover SUV to a range of pickups including the F-150. Each product line comes with options to enhance performance, comfort, and safety. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Andy is new this season.
Yeah, she's awesome.
very capable and very big-hearted.
It's so amazing to be a part of this. I mean, to travel around the world and learn so much from others while we can participate in their goals in meaningful ways.
Yeah, we like to tease her.
You know, it's natural, though, being the new girl and all.
Yeah, she hit the ground running. Yeah, she did.
I hope the show can inspire others to get involved and open their eyes to the people around them.
Yeah, she looks small, but she's super tough.
Doesn't like snakes, though.
Yeah, that's for sure.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
BYU men's volleyball on the bounce-back effort, trying to end that lengthy losing streak this weekend against Concordia. It's going to happen. Watch the match live Friday at 9 Eastern on BYU TV and the app. Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation live, currently from the Studio Orleans. Jarom Jordan will join us again in just a moment. I had the great opportunity to speak with not one but two fabulous BYU women's basketball players yesterday, both who played an integral role in the Cougars beating the Portland Pilots and getting to Title Tuesday today. We'll start with Tegan Graham.
Tegan, you just wrapped up an incredibly emotional and very intense semifinal win against a team that had beaten you in the only head-to-head matchup this year. What does that semifinal win mean to this team?
It's huge, yeah. We wanted Portland. Obviously, we lost to them in the regular season, and they never came to us. So we really wanted that game back, and we prepared for them all week. And so we kind of had that mindset going into it, where we wanted to be the aggressors, we wanted to have a physical game, and we got one.
Things didn't go as planned for you on offense, and Portland sped you up, but overall you did a better job taking care of the ball. What were you able to do to kind of counteract that press that can be super frustrating?
Yeah, I think honestly this game was won by defense. They did a really good job speeding us up, quick shots, that sort of stuff, and you didn't see the offensive performance that you normally do from our team. But I think that's where our defense really shines, and we did an incredibly good job on a great big, well, two great bigs, Fowler and Cochran are dominating right now. So I think we just had to lock in and get stops, and we did.
I want to take you to a moment in the fourth quarter where Alex Fowler for Portland hits a huge three. They go up 4, and then you come right back down the floor and essentially say, give me the ball, it's going up, and then you knock down a 3 to bring it back to a 1-point game. Walk us through that sequence.
Yeah, I think, that's just kind of like, it's kind of game mode. You don't even really think about it. She just hit a really big 3, and I came down, got an open look, got a clean look, and, shoot is shoot. I'm a shooter. My team has confidence in me, and I didn't shoot great tonight, but, I hit that big one, and it felt good.
How much of that is you just being a competitor? Okay, you hit one, I'm going to make this.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, I love games like that. That's why you play basketball. You play basketball to play, really, really competitive games like that where it's back and forth. And I think we need those kind of games going forward, especially, for what we want to do in postseason. So I think that was an exciting, really, really important game for us.
Okay, and let's talk about Gonzaga. They're a very balanced team, but so is BYU. Why did you enjoy success against Gonzaga this season and were able to sweep them both times?
I think we're really competitive, and what I mean by that is we like to take teams out of what they do, and I think Gonzaga, we kind of figure out what they want to do on the pick and roll and really try to attack that, and that's where that competitiveness, that defensive edge comes into play for our team. So yeah, for Gonzaga, I think it's just like taking playmaking abilities away from the guards and and just getting stops.
So much about March is just surviving and getting to the next game. Competing and advancing to the next game. What does a win like you had against Portland in dramatics with just high intensity, what does that do for your team going into the championship?
I mean, it's huge to play those kind of close games in March. That's what you want, right? That's what you live for. That's why people play college basketball, right? And to have the insane crowd that we had today was just incredible. I mean, I think the crowd, they really pushed us over the edge. They gave us so much energy right from the jump, but especially in the fourth quarter. So it's just exciting. Who doesn't want to play basketball in March, right?
I was going to ask you about that. How much do you hear the crowd? How much did you feel that in the game in the semifinals?
Yeah, definitely big plays. Like my 3, I heard that. Maria's 3 at the end, that was a dagger. I heard that. Yeah, just big stops too. Like securing the rebound, like you can feel the energy shift, right? That momentum. And so I think, we have incredible fans this year. It's growing. But it's been awesome to have so many people show up and support us.
What's your conditioning level like right now at this point of the season after a really tough game like that?
Yeah, it's all about recovery. I mean, I'm old. This is my 6th year of college basketball, so it's about a lot of water and a lot of recovery. But I think we feel good. We've had this mindset going this whole season, right, that we're going to have a long season. So I think everyone's prepared. I know your whole family's watching very closely. A lot of them back at home a long way away. What's your message to them right now? That I love you guys. Thank you for supporting, and go Cougs. You want some karma for the game? Some karma? Some BYU Sports Nation karma. Yeah. You want it? Yeah. What does that mean? It means you talk to me, and because you're kind, you get some karma, and you're going to be awesome. Well, I'm going to succeed now. Okay. Tegan, thanks so much. Thank you.
She's already succeeding, let's face it. So now she has BYU Sports Nation karma, which can only mean good things. But why stop at one player giving out the karma? Let's go ahead and give it to another international star on International Women's Day, Maria Albiero.
Maria, you played a huge role in BYU's semifinal win over a really gritty Portland team that is so good at that frustrating full-court pressure. What are your emotions like just a few minutes removed from that game, moving on into the championship?
I mean, a lot of emotions for sure. We worked the whole year really for this moment tomorrow. Just happy that we handled the pressure how we were supposed to. Obviously, there were moments that didn't look great, but as soon as it's done, we celebrate for a little. My mind is already on tomorrow. That's kind of how it works for me, at least.
Well, I'm going to force you to think about that three-point shot you hit in the fourth quarter. BYU's up 3. You're left open in the corner. In that moment, what are you feeling and what are you thinking?
Not a lot of thinking, more doing, just trying at least, because, I mean, I had no idea what the score was, which I probably should know. And I knew it was close, but I didn't realize that that was like a big 3. I had no idea. I went outside and people were like, that was a huge 3, and I was like, oh, I mean, that's cool. Honestly, just ready to shoot. My coach just told me to be ready. All my teammates, you can't pass that shot, so I don't know. Just happy I made it, honestly.
Well, I watched you get a couple of big hoops around the hoop, too, a reverse layup against the height of Lucy Cochran at 6'5". What's it like playing against a shot blocker that you kind of see every day in practice with Sarah Hampson?
Yeah, oh, that definitely helps. Like, I'm used to having Sarah there. You just learn a couple ways here and there, go a little quicker, shoot a little sooner. It definitely helps. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure, I don't really remember what it looked like, but I'm pretty sure I chucked it high up there, and it went in, so, yeah.
What was the locker room scene like after that hard-fought win?
Good. Not crazy. Like, everybody's happy for each other because we played a hard game. It wasn't pretty, but we won. But just happy and more like we expected. There's work to do tomorrow. So good vibes for sure, yeah.
What did it mean to you personally to know that you had lost to Portland and you found a way to, I guess, right the ship by beating them here in the postseason?
It means a lot. I think all of us, we're all competitive at the end of the day. I wanted to play them just because I wanted to prove the league that we can beat them. Like, we didn't play good against them, and it doesn't really define who we are because we've had a great year. So another chance to be a team, and we did. They're a great team. They really are. So I'm happy we played them.
You're 26-2 now. The 26 wins are a program best for the history of the program. Number 15 team in the country. That's also the highest ranking that BYU women's basketball has ever enjoyed. And you're pacing for a 5 seed. How do you handle all of those little fun facts and stats when it comes to rankings and potential seedings?
I think really with BYU, I don't understand how everything works. Sometimes I don't even want to understand, but we might get robbed. If we do, then we do. At the end of the day, I was talking to Tom yesterday, our sports psychologist, and he said at the end of the day, at some point you're going to have to be a number 1 seed. So really, I just try not to think much about this. I'm happy. I think it's incredible. I'm really happy to be a part of it. I think it's such a long process and happy that we accomplished that, but just thinking about tomorrow.
Okay, 2 wins against Gonzaga this season, the dramatic comeback in Spokane, and then an utterly dominant performance at home on senior night. What is it going to take to beat the Gonzaga Bulldogs for a 3rd time?
A 3rd time, that's the thing. I think it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. I think we have what it takes. We've done it before. So we know how they play. We know how to stop them. But they run it. They're very disciplined. So I think it's just, again, it's just going to come down to disciplined defense, knowing personnel. And we got them. We know how they play. And if we play disciplined and together, we should be able to stop them always.
All right, I talked to Tegan a moment ago. Gave her a chance to shout out her family back in New Zealand. What's your message to your family back in Brazil?
Oh, they don't speak English, but...
You can speak Portuguese. It's all good.
Okay, well, I'll say it in English and then in Portuguese. I just want to thank my family for loving me, for the support. a lot of sacrifice for me to be here. It wouldn't have happened without them. So, mãe, pai, minha família, obrigada pelo sacrifício, por tudo que vocês fizeram por mim. Tá valendo a pena. Muito obrigada.
Perfect. Now you get some BYU Sports Nation karma to boot, okay? You know the deal there. You talk to me, hang out with us. You're going to play great. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Fantastic stuff from two international women at BYU, Tegan Graham and Maria Albiero. Coming up, a Rise and shout out fitting for International Women's Day. Plus, as promised, our Top 5 Tuesday features the top conference tournament title games in BYU basketball history. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Delta Airlines. Keep climbing.
My name is Spencer Finnegan. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. During my sophomore year, I got married to my sweetheart, Mary, and there's tons of unexpected expenses when it comes to marriage. We were looking for scholarships. I found the replenishment grant, and my local alumni chapter gave me a grant to help me focus in on school. I'm so excited to, now that I've graduated, give back to those students that are coming to BYU in the future.
If I got hurt and was laid up at home, I wouldn't even think to call a lawyer. What a hassle. I'd want to meet them first.
What if I told you that for your first consultation, your lawyer will come to you, home or hospital?
Really?
Really.
They do that?
If you've been injured, we'll come to you. It's your job to get better. It's our job to deal with the insurance companies.
Learn more at SiegfriedandJensen.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Will Forte!
Honey, look! My wish must have come true! You two are bombing.
Buddy, come on, help me out here. We got it. You know we got it. Come on. I'm undercover as a cat. Yeah, I'm very good at assuming other identities. No. I'm in too deep. I need to catch that laser dot.
Every day, I help an animal walk again.
I believe that having special needs animals has brought an extra layer of richness to the fabric of our family.
Not many people take in these special needs guys, but in the end, they're the best ones.
It's unbelievable. It's like his disability has disappeared.
Every step just proves to me that these dogs can get through anything.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Nation is always available on demand via the free BYU TV and BYU Radio app.
Or download the podcast. Just Google BYU Sports Nation podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review it.
Top 5 Tuesday time presented by Delta Airlines. BYU basketball has had some great conference tournament championships over the years. Not so many recently on the men's side, but the women's side has. So we take a look at the top 5 conference tournament championship games. Kick it off.
Let's go. Numero 5. The men's only Mountain West Conference Tournament Championship as we rewind to 2001. BYU was the 2 seed in this tournament, beat 5th seed New Mexico. The tournament MVP, McKelly Wesley, had 30 points, 11 of 12 shooting that day to lead the Cougars, including shooting out of a triple team to put the Cougars up 4 with 23 seconds left. You bet. That win helped BYU clinch their first tournament appearance in the Big Dance in 6 years.
I remember exactly where I was, Marissa Feinstein's house. And, yeah, maybe I need to go to Marissa's street again just to summon the karma or something. Who knows? Number 4, in 2015, the BYU women became the lowest seed to win the West Coast Conference Championship. The Cougars entered as a 5 seed, knocking off top-ranked Zags in the semis. BYU beat 6th-seeded San Francisco to punch their ticket to the Big Dance. Lexi Eaton was named tournament MVP. She had 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists in the title game. The BYU women have been really good in Vegas in this tournament.
Yes, indeed. Number 3, 2019, the BYU men had to face Correction, the women had to face 12th-ranked Gonzaga, 28-3. Brenna Chase had 25 points. Freshman Shaylee Gonzalez, oh yeah, that girl, had 20 as BYU coasted to an 82-68 win. Paisley Harding, the tournament MVP, she had 19 points in the title game. BYU's third time beating Gonzaga in that season, preventing the Zags from winning 3 straight conference tournament championships.
Number 2, we go back to 91 for the men, where BYU won its first ever conference tournament on the hardwood, taking the WAC title. They did it against 8th-ranked Utah, who entered the tournament 25-2. Game went to OT. Nate Call made 2 free throws with 8 seconds to put the Cougars up. In the final seconds, Utah's Tyrone Tate had a wide-open layup to tie the game and missed it, giving BYU the win. Look at this. Look at that.
No!
What?
Oh, pain for Utah and celebration for the Cougars.
Which is joy for BYU.
Yes. Number 1 happened the following year, Jarom, in 1992. BYU trailing UTEP by 2 with 31 seconds left. Mark Hessel played a 3 to give BYU the lead. Following a UTEP bucket with 2.4 seconds left, Kevin Nixon from 55 feet away. Drano took 2 dribbles, firing it from beyond half court. Pandemonium for the Cougars in Fort Collins, Colorado, as they head back to the big dance. Kevin Nixon for the win. What an amazing moment for BYU basketball. Roger Reed, the head coach, and his celebration also fantastic.
The second greatest shot in Cougar history. So good. So good. How about that? Okay, like, honestly, I don't know like a ton. I have to research to go like before I moved to Utah, BYU basketball and football stuff. I've never seen that Utah play. I've never seen that. That was amazing.
Oh, yeah. That's an all-timer, right? That is an all-timer. I remember that as a little kid. I remember how happy my family was on that day, in that moment. It was glorious.
That gives me so much joy. Good gosh. I'm that pathetic. Our question of the day. Who or what will be the Y factor in tonight's West Coast Conference Women's Championship game? At the Casual Hippie on Twitter. Paisley Harding will be the Y factor. She had a rough game yesterday, missing shots she usually makes. She went 4-14. Look for her to bounce back with a career game. She's a former tournament MVP as a sophomore in 2019. Our elite voice of the day.
She made some clutch free throws, right?
Yeah, 4 for 4 down the stretch. That was awesome. Presented. He's talking about the layups earlier. Presented by Sundance Mountain Resort. At Tyson Peterson on Twitter. Like Kristen Kozlowski said yesterday, Tegan Graham is an extension of Juddy on the floor and will keep the ladies accountable. She is her teammates' Y. Ooh, I like that. I think that's a good choice. Tegan Graham is the Y factor. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, Tegan's a glue player for BYU. I've said it a number of times on the air. Like, there are so many amazing individual players on this team, and Tegan kind of helps it all connect together beautifully. Like, if you think of the jar analogy, Jarom, the big rocks, all the star players, Tegan's like the sand that fills in all the loose cracks.
Yes. And BYU after the season may say, hey, I only saw one set of footprints on the sand, and it was Tegan who carried us to the WCC title. Today's Rise and Shoutouts, presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. Women's hoops, get into the ship. Go win the ship, baby. Go win it. 4 Eastern, BYU Radio, ESPNU. It's going to be awesome. Our thanks to today's guests, Jerry Palm, Maria Albiero, and Tegan Graham.
Our sincere apologies to Dennis Pitta for not having time today. Thought we were going to have it. Didn't happen, Jarom.
For Spencer, I'm Jarom. Shout out to Cassie Broadhead. Go Gales, beat the Zags tonight. Listen to the WCC title game as well. Women's Hoops, BYU Radio, 4 Eastern. Go Cougs!